I don't know if we should say his name.
No names.
But he's an MP.
Okay.
And I, straight up asked him, if you know that majority of prisoners are care affected, care leavers, why is there nothing being done about it? His answer was, it's not a national issue.
Whoa. Actually do mention his name because I know that's a form of communication. My thing is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And I sensed that because I had many therapists before you that just didn't work out with CAMs and things like that. But I was like, I think I tested you a couple of times.
Yes, you did, yeah.
I was put into care when I was 5 with not much explanation why I was going into care. So for a very long time, I was just looking at it as, you've taken me away from my family in a police car in front of all of my friends. Hello and welcome to the Precious Moments podcast. My name is Angel and today I am joined by the Managing Director of Precious Moments. She is a counsellor, mentor and advocate and has been working with the young people of Enfield for over 25 years. Ladies and gentlemen, my mentor, Mauva Johnson.
Hey, hi.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good.
I'm here.
Yes. So tell us more about yourself. You've been working with young people. Well, we worked together since I was about 13 and I'm 22 now. So 6 years did we work together?
Sounds like nearly 10. Right? Well, feels like a lot longer, but
we was on the books for a good 6 years, but we continued after. So and now I work for you and I'm being trained by you. But this goes way beyond my time working with you. If you want to share with the viewers where it all started, specifically, I want to know what really made you want to get into it.
I've kind of been doing this for over 30 years, really. 30 years as a mentor. I kind of started with NatWest, Royal Bank of Scotland, Investors in People. They offered us the opportunity to get involved with mentoring. Barnet was doing a pilot and they approached the local bank and I offered to be involved in that. So I got involved doing mentoring in secondary school. My first one was QE Girls in Barnet. And I absolutely loved it. It was so natural for me. It just felt so natural to just be working with young people. And when I look back, I've been doing that for many years without even thinking about it, with my godchildren, with other people's children. I've always had this thing about working with vulnerable children or young people. It's always been there. But what really got me going in this direction, I spent 23 years in the bank and I got made redundant in 2003. Tried to think about what I wanted to do. I thought I'm going to start my own business. I wanted to do a bar. I had all these kind of big ideas about what I wanted to do, but there was something pulling me in internally. I was one of those people that when I left school, they said that I wasn't academic. I didn't have the ability to, do really well that way. So I went straight into banking. I didn't bother to go college. So when I got made redundant, I did loads of training in the meantime. When I got made redundant, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and do a little course during the summer. It was called Counselling Education. It involved me going to Trent Park in Cockfosters to do the summer course. And while I was there, I was the only external student. Everybody else were psychology students.
Right.
And they convinced me, even the tutor, to sign up and do the degree. I didn't necessarily think I could do it, to be honest. Having been told at a very young age that I wasn't academic, I thought, what am I doing? And I can only say, not even a miracle, it just all happened and they took me to get enrolled. I got enrolled, I had an interview and I got that phone call saying, you're on the course. Tears came to my eyes because it was like, what? And I was the first out of my family that was able to do a degree. And so that was an eye-opener. I probably didn't even know what the word psychology meant, but I soon learned. And then it confirmed everything that I've always thought. It was really, I understood psychology like I'd always known what it was. And it was so enriching for me to be able to say, oh, that's what I do. Oh, I get that. Oh, I understand. It was so natural for me. So that was the beginning of a wonderful, I think, experience at Trent Park, Middlesex University. I absolutely loved it. The 3 years there was a real testament for me. I think I burnt my brain cells, but it was worth it. But after that, I got a placement with CAMS. I thought that's what I wanted, because remember I said when I first did the course in the summer, it was about counselling education.
Yeah.
So following my experience of being a mentor in a secondary school, I thought, yes, counselling needs to be in schools. So I thought I wanted to be an educational psychologist until I went to CAMS and realised that not all they did, but the majority of their work involves writing reports. And I realised then that was definitely not what I wanted to do. I wanted to get in there, hands-on. And then I met psychologists, clinical psychologists, counselling psychologists, family therapists, and I knew there was a lot more things that I could choose from. Lots of people said, come into our profession, come into my profession. I did intend to try clinical psychologist. I applied twice, but then I thought, it's not for me, maybe. The doors didn't open. So I'm very much, with my faith, I believe if it's meant to be, then the doors will open. If it's not, then they will remain closed. So I wasn't going to go into something I didn't feel I was being led to do. So I decided to go and, see what else is out there. Anyway, while I was at CAMS, I began to feel quite restricted. I was doing participation, which means you get the young people involved in making, decisions for CAMS to kind of grow and take into consideration the young people's thoughts and feelings. But I felt very restricted by CAMS. I got to the point where I didn't like it at all. I just felt that this wasn't the area I really want to be in. There's too much restriction, and I just didn't want that. I got seconded because I did loads of research for CAMS, loads of different studies we did, and it was all good. But I got seconded to social care in Enfield. And I was setting up a project called the Stretch Targets Project, which is for 16 pluses, working with the NEETs, which is not in employment, educational training. Yeah. And I ended up working with they gave me all the worst ones, if you want to put it in that way, all the ones that were giving them the most problems, they gave them to me. And I fell in love with these children. I literally fell in love with these young people. I worked out of borough as well, so I was able to go and visit them if they were placed out of Enfield, which was a great opportunity for me to be a freelance contractor for social care. And remember, initially, I wasn't even supposed to do that. I was only supposed to set up the project because I have project officer management skills from the banking days. So I was only supposed to set it up and then go back to CAMS. But I set it up and then they asked me to stay, and then they asked me to mentor because they found out I used to do mentoring. But it was the best thing I've ever done. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. And I loved I worked with all different children, male, female, all different ethnicities. And I had the same feeling, that pull that I needed to help them. The one thing I found, though, which was quite disappointing, was that these particular children were considered to be the ones that were not going to make it. They weren't on the stats paper doing well in schools. In comparison to the population, they were always achieving less. And when I kind of understood the dynamics of it behind closed doors, which is the amount of moves that they've had, the disruptions that they've had, I wasn't surprised. But yet they're expected to remain in school, expected to achieve high grades, expected to come out being normal, in brackets, without any adverse effects on how they should be in their world, in the community. And it was just like, really, you got some high expectations considering some of these kids have been through so much distress and trauma, and they're not given any therapeutic intervention. Yeah. And I was devastated, really, because the reality of it was they're expected to perform with very little. Yeah. And when I tried to get some support for them, therapeutic support for them, it was like nobody wanted to touch them with a barge pole. I was devastated. I thought, I refer this one, refer that one. Nothing was coming of it. And I kind of got a bit despondent with that. So I just then learned solution-focused brief therapy and tried to do that with them, and found that I could get them to move. I could renew the minds. I could get those stubborn kids to understand that their strength was that they were determined, that they could actually achieve so much more if only they knew that they had that strength. And instead of using it to make them stuck, because a lot of them became quite stuck, stubborn. I'm not doing it. Nobody's, going to make me, because they could control that part of their lives. So it became...
Exactly. That's exactly what when we first met, I was 13.
Yeah.
And at the time I just lost my mum.
Yeah.
I just moved back to London and I left the dream school that I wanted to go to. It was really devastating for me. It was just one thing after the other. And then come GCSEs, at that point, I just was my priorities were just not in line at all.
No.
The year before, they had taken me away from that care home I was in East London, shipped me to South London. You had no idea where I was.
No.
And this is after us working very closely for about a year, 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was thrown into my GCSE year, coming out of a high-risk unit where, I'm being restrained and shouted at, and it's just really tough conditions. Like it felt like children's prison, honestly. But coming out of that, trying to get back into education, but being thrown into something so intense like GCSEs, I couldn't do it.
No, not at all.
And on top of that, specifically where they placed me was really inappropriate. It was actually across the road from where my mum passed. So all these things added up. The loss of the school, all the stuff that I went through living in London when I came back in the care home, all the things I had to deal with there, my dad as well. It was just too much. And and as you said, there is no support, because I was, everything that you just described, I was deemed one of those kids that was like, oh, she's too far gone. Like, she's a lost cause. There's no hope for her. And everyone kept trying to come at me with the same type of solution of sitting down in the office and talk about my feelings. And it's like, well, I've been telling you lots how I feel all this time. I've been screaming at you, and you still go against what I want. We know what's best for you. We're just doing what's best for you.
Of course. And it's the voice of the child.
Right. And so that's when I became, you know what? If you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to listen to you. And as you say, I became very, very determined to rebel against anything that they told me to do. They could tell me to go to the shop. I'm not going to no shop. I didn't go to shops for like 2 weeks straight if they told me to go to the shops, So we had a team meeting yesterday, and that's something you said. And that was my biggest takeaway, is that stubbornness is actually determination. And it's just about kind of shifting that focus onto something more positive.
Definitely. And I saw it, because working with yourself and others in similar situations opened my eyes, to a different world. I didn't know much about children in care. I had very limited exposure to it. So being involved in that community, if you like, opened my eyes. But when I saw the vulnerabilities of you all, because even when they introduced me to you, you'd been moved about 7 times, and just that was like, but she's only 13. From one place to the other. And from their perspective, oh, yeah, she's breaking down the placements now. I said, well, there must be a reason for that. She wouldn't just break them down for no reason. And so I didn't understand before what would have given or driven you to do that. But I learned how those things can evolve, because yourself and others in similar situations feel as though you don't have control over what happens. Everybody, all the adults are controlling it. They decide whether you stay or you go. They decide whether you move or you don't. And so what you end up doing is thinking, well, before somebody decides I'm going to move, I'll break it down myself. That way I've got control of it. And therefore you self-sabotage, not because you want to, but because your fear is of being rejected. So before they reject you, you reject them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because even something as recent as when I lived in Canning Town, we're in that shared accommodation, and I was really upset about it. This was only like 2 years ago. And I used the same technique that I've been using since I was like 6, 7 years old, is that kick up a fuss. Kick up a fuss, and they moved me and put me in my own place. And it's like it's almost like they reward that kind of behavior, because it is affirming that if I kick off,
then I get what I want.
If I want to move, all I have to do is kick up a fuss. When I moved to Bushel Park and I didn't have my double bed, and I said, well, I'm not going to stay here.
I was around for that.
House.
I was around for that. Yeah.
So these things, yeah, they definitely reaffirm it. And I think looking back at my own journey, there are many foster carers that were absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
And I think what happened is I would get comfortable enough to start unloading. And then they would be like, oh, what is this? We've never seen a side of her. And they would take it as me rejecting them when it was actually me saying, look, I'm actually really, really comfortable. And I have a lot of things that I want to unload. There's a lot of anger because I was put into care when I was 5 with not much explanation why I was going into care. So for a very long time, I was just looking at it as, you've taken me away from my family in a police car in front of all of my friends. They came in a police car whilst I was playing outside. Like, my friends all thought I got arrested. I went into school like the following week and people were like, did you go to jail?
She's 5.
5 years old.
Sense, yeah.
5-year-olds are asking their friend, did you go to jail? And it's like, they don't think about these kind of things.
No, not
like
at all.
I don't think, or maybe they do and they do it on purpose. I don't know what the theory is.
Well, none of us quite get it, to be honest with you. As I said, I learnt about this community. I learnt about yourselves because the fact of the matter is that children, even in the normal family environment, they could be perfect in school. And when they come home, if there's anything disturbing them, they'll let it off at home. Why? Because that's their safe place.
Yeah.
That's their safe place. That's where they expect to be held. That's where they expect to be able to download. And so, like you said, it makes perfect sense to me that as you began to trust these adults, you would download, you would allow your true self to, and that's what children do with their parents. That's what normally happens. And when you started doing it, because they were your foster carers, they saw you being difficult. They didn't know how to deal with that. From a child's perspective, you're just being in a safe place. You feel they're going to hold me. I can... And then all of a sudden they're going, oh dear, not too sure about this. Oh no, we can't manage this. And then before you know it, you're moved. And I really felt it because I thought, God, I can't imagine what I would have been like being able, moving around so much, different people. And every time you move, there's a sense of, are they going to like me? Are they going to accept me? And so this is the kind of environment I kind of got into. I began to feel how you guys feel. I began to have those feelings of, when you were moved to another place, oh my God, I wonder if it's going to be okay. They're going to like her. I'd like go in really quickly and say, oh, she's such a lovely girl. Kind of trying to make them like you because I didn't want that rejection again. Or I knew that you would sense it. If you didn't feel that they were going to hold you, you would deliberately sabotage it on purpose. Not because you were thinking, oh yeah, they're going to chuck me out, but more about, I can relax now.
Yeah.
And it was that I kept seeing. And not with just you, but generally, it repeated itself, that familiar pattern of behaviour. And even when I tried to speak to the social workers, some of the really good ones, they understood and they did different things. The ones that didn't want to, they could have been burnt out. They could have had another reason why, but their ways of dealing with it would be saying, they'll be fine, they're survivors, or words to that effect. And I found that quite difficult to digest, to be honest. And when I was trying to get support, one of the males that I worked with, he got attacked and they tried to kidnap him. And what happened was I was going away for the weekend and he would only come in to speak to me because they gave him every negative connotation you could possibly think of. He was racist, he was aggressive, he was, verbally abusive. I mean, everything negative was attached to him. But I befriended him. He tested me, but that's the bit I enjoy. And we became very good friends. And I understood what was underneath the outer surface, and he began to understand. He began to trust me. He used to swear like a trooper at one point, but I never told him never to swear, but I told him it burnt me ears. So he decided, he would apologise. And before you know it, this guy was opening the door for me to come out the car. Gentleman he was. But they never saw that. And they saw it that he's manipulative. He only does this when he feels like it. I said, a baby's manipulative. They cry because they want you to give them attention. Right. So this is an instinct. This is a natural instinct. If you're going to say this child is just trying to get what they want because they're manipulative, be aware this is a baby instinct. This is from the, id stage, if we're talking about Freud. So anyway, I went away for just a weekend, and I came back and he tried to commit suicide. And that really hit me. It really hit me. And it was the first time anybody had actually done that. I was more used to avoid trying to help them to avoid that and getting them away from that. Yeah. So for somebody to actually do it, and he didn't have those kind of ideations. I never heard him ever say that. He felt suicidal. Never. So when I came back, I was shocked. I was absolutely blown away that he was heading to go on the train tracks, and his cousin was able to get him off it and get him to a hospital. That did it for me, because this is one of those that I was trying to say, can somebody help? Can we get him to get some therapy? Nothing. After that, I said, right, I need to become a therapist.
I was going to ask, how did you deal with that? And then you use that as like momentum.
That was my driver, because I kept asking them for trying to get him into some kind of therapeutic support. And it got to the point where he wanted it, but they would not. Cam wouldn't touch him because obviously the outcomes for children in care is not that good. So they're not going to want to really get involved in too many of those. It won't show up good on the stats. Sorry, but that's the facts. And nobody wanted to get involved with them because the theory is that until they're settled, they shouldn't engage in therapy. Well, when are they going to be settled if they're being moved every 2 minutes?
You gotta, It's like they don't address the root cause of it.
No.
And they just kind of keep piling and piling and piling and piling, just more trauma on top.
It is. I've got so many case studies that I could recap. And with you were the one that stayed the longest. And therefore, you gave me the opportunity to practice what I preach. You gave me the opportunity to practice what I was believing I could be able to do. And it wasn't to do a miracle. I'm not a miracle worker. It was about doing what I felt was going to work for you, that was going to help you to move forward. I got to know you. I remember the first time they introduced me to you, they gave me this really negative profile, and I thought, oh, okay. He goes, you got to be careful. She can be aggressive at times. I went, okay. And I think it's because, as a young lady, I could be aggressive at times. So I'm not afraid of aggression. I don't see it as something that I would run from. I've never ran from aggression, to be honest with you. I usually run into it. So I'm a bit wiser now, thank God. But I'm not afraid because I know that's a form of communication. My thing is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
And I sensed that because I had many therapists before you that just didn't work out with CAMs and things like that. But I was like, I think I tested you a couple of times.
Yes, you did, yes.
And I was like, okay.
You did?
Mauva Johnson, all right then.
Bring it on.
So I felt like I could, I think, and it shows up as well, like now currently in like love life and stuff, like I will test people and I'll push people to their limits to see if they can really handle me if I do actually have a genuine outburst or if I am just like one day not in the mood to communicate or whatever, I'm just angry at the world. So I think I definitely did that with you and you passed every single time.
Oh yes, I remember one time in the car.
I knew it was going to bring this up.
When you decided to kick off, and I went, whoa, I said, excuse me. By this time, guys, by the way, we did have there's nothing I regret in life here. Apart from this one time, I was being moved from Tottenham to Bushell Park. Oh, I wasn't even thinking of that one. That means there's another one.
There's another one. No, because it was when my friend was in the car.
Yes, I remember that one, but that wasn't the one I was talking about.
My gosh.
There's a couple. Yes. Anyway, that one.
That's the only regrets that I have in life.
That one. I did have to pull over my car, by the way, everyone. Yeah. I did have to pull over my car and threaten to get
I wasn't even angry at you. I was angry at my friend.
I know.
And then I snapped because you was like, I think you suggested like to calm down or something. I was like, stay out. And then immediately afterwards, like, but I was so angry at the time that adrenaline was just going through my body. But like mentally, I knew that I had effed up like really bad, and I felt really guilty. And I remember coming back to you like, so like, I didn't mean anything, and I hope you know that I didn't mean anything that I said. So
I literally pulled over my car, guys, and I just stopped. I said, if you don't calm down, we're not going no further. I ain't driving with you lot in the car, getting ready to have any little beef in here. It's going to stop right now. And I just parked my car and waited till they calmed down. And then I said, right, are we ready to go now? Then we drove. That wasn't the actual one I was talking about. Yeah. There was another time, actually there's about two more, but there was another time, she don't remember these. I remember them. where she was in the car. You must have had a bad day or something. He was in a really bad mood. And I'd gone down there and you were like, oh, I don't want to see anyone. You must have been in that kind of mood. And eventually I got you to come. I said, come for a drive, come on, let's go out. And the home, I think he was at Adiza at the time. And anyway, managed to get you in the car, but you were not in a good place. I was convincing you to come out thinking, okay, I'll be able to get her in a bed. She started to have a go at me. I was like, whoa, hey girl, don't talk to me like that. I remember saying specifically, don't go there with me like that. If I'm trying to help you, and if you've got this kind of attitude going on, I can't work with this. I'm trying to help you here. So if it's not going to work today, let me just take you back and we'll just leave it. Because I thought, we're not going to get into a row. I'm going to bring you back and we're going to leave it there. Yeah. Right? I said, we're not going into that. And I remember you went quiet because that's probably the first time I really pulled you up about your attitude to me. And as we was driving, then you went quiet. And then you said, I'm sorry. I'm just having a bad day. And I went, okay, cool. Do you want to stay or shall we just leave it for today? And you said, no, it's all right. You just brought it right back. That's the quickest I've seen you do that. So that was my evidence that she's shifting. Yeah. Because normally you'd be doing that stuff for a couple of hours.
And I would double down.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no, I'm upset and I don't want to see nobody. And you made me come out into the car and I don't want to come out. Yeah. I would really stand on business. But I think that was, as you just said, like very pivotal moment. And you taught me that. I think the problem, I guess, is that sometimes adults in my life were either too lenient or not lenient at all. And it was just two very extremes. Whereas you would give me that space to be emotional, but there was a boundary so it didn't get disrespectful and you kept it as that. And then that allowed me in that moment to think, right, do I want to go back to my room and be in a depressed state? Or do I want to go La Bella Vita?
There you go. I think we did end up there.
I want that risotto.
I think we did end up there, yes, and you were much better. And
where else did we go?
Well, you taught me about food. Yeah. This girl loves her food.
That's our thing.
Yeah, she taught me about restaurants because I'm not a food lover. Remember I said to you, I'm not really a food lover. I kind of know the same things, ate the same things. I don't
understand how you can't love food.
No, I didn't. But I really enjoyed watching you eat it. It just gave me such joy. Oh, I remember you took me, where did we go? We went to, what's that place called? Stratford? What's it, Westfield?
Yeah.
And we went to somewhere, I don't know if it was Wagamama or one of those anyway.
Yes.
No, we went to some posh one because they served your food on some board. It wasn't even on a plate.
ZZ.
Okay, there you go.
ZZ Pizza.
Is it ZZ Pizza? Okay. Well, this young lady taught me about restaurants and food because I used to sit there, let her order what she wants and just watch her eat. I was just blown over. And I see how she just take her time. Every little thing she put in her mouth, you could see her just working out that flavor. I just loved watching you eat because that was your thing. I could see you go into a really good place and just enjoy the moment. And it brought me to a place where I'm like, I really enjoy watching you.
Food is my happy place. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we started the horse riding.
Yes.
Now, when I saw this girl on a horse, when she told me she could ride a horse, I don't know no black people that ride horses. Not in this country
what is the
anyway.
stereotype of black people not being
No, they
able
do
to
ride horses, but you were going to be the first one that I know very well. I know people that ride horses now. But before I met you, I wasn't thinking of black people on horses in this country. In the West Indies, yes. Not in here.
Not here.
But when I saw you on the horse, it brought tears to my eyes, because when you told me you could ride, I didn't quite believe you. I thought, yeah, probably talking about the little one on the roundabout, the fun fair or something like that, or the little donkey ride at the sea, you know, in the beach, which I remember going on when I was a child. So I didn't really understand what you meant. But when I actually saw you on the horse, I was like, oh my God, she can ride. She can proper ride.
I think that is many people's perception when I tell them I can horse ride.
Yeah, you could.
They just see a black girl and they're like, no.
No, well, you didn't kind of seem like the young lady, and this is a stereotype again, that would even be into horses, because you're sort of very, you know, I've got to.
I mean, I grew up in Leicester and Hertfordshire pretty much all my childhood. I left London when I was about 7 and I came back when I was 13. Now, that time period of 6 years is technically short, but it was very like important for character building. So being in the countryside surrounded by cows and horses, you know what I mean? I'm into all of that, like shooting rifles and archery, running through forest barefoot.
Yeah. Do you remember one time we did some therapy together? It was therapeutic mentoring, and I got you to draw a picture. And you drew a picture of you going into, there was a forest or trees, and there was a pathway, and you were riding a bike. And I believe the lady was your mum, but you drew a picture of yourself on a bike on this pathway going into a park or a forest or something like that. But I remember there was loads of trees on the side. You don't remember that picture?
I don't remember any of this.
I do. I remember that picture because I remember thinking it's your innate thought of peace.
Yeah.
And being on the bike with your mum in a park, maybe, and it might even have been somebody else, but it was that perception of you riding a bike in an open space, having the freedom to just pedal away.
Yeah.
And I remember you were saying, I want to go in the forest. It was like, you know, that's where I want to go. I want to go in the forest, you know. And I remember just thinking, wow, to me, that picture told me a lot about you, that feeling of wanting to be free and even being lost in the forest. Not lost literally, but feeling maybe a sense of loss, you know, in a forest, you know, a place full of large trees, adults, people, things, you know, and not quite feeling like you know where you are. So there was a lot that picture gave me in relation to your sense of self. Yeah. Where you felt you were in this world, you know?
Yeah. I feel like horse riding, the horses are known to be very spiritual and communicate with emotions. And I'd never had contact with a horse other than going past this one particular field in Leicester on the way to school. So on the way to school and back, I would like anticipate the specific part in my journey and would just watch the horses. And after a while, I noticed that they would like pay attention to me.
Yes.
And they would like, it started off with them just looking at me, facing my direction every time I came back past the field. And then it became a thing that they would start galloping with the car. And I'm like, why? I haven't, you know, come out of the car and contacted these horses before. But they started to gallop with the car. Years later, I find out that they actually communicate through emotion. So my theory is that I connected with the horses from inside the car. But that's exactly how I got into horse riding, was these horses galloping. And I was like, I want to do that. And so I asked my foster care at the time, like, can I do it? And they, I mean, them also being like a farm kind of family, like they were very much for it. So they really pushed those services to do that for me. Wow. So yeah, that's how I actually got into horse riding.
And I tell you what, you opened up my eyes about how sensitive and spiritual horses are, because I could see when you were with them a connection. I love animals generally, but I don't really have any, you know, I'm not really close to horses because I don't really have any, and I don't know anybody that does. So this was an experience for me to really see what was going on between you and the horses. And I saw that connection that you're talking about. I remember when the first time when that horse threw you, And the horse literally felt so bad. He had his head down. I was like, what? And it literally came back over. It was like, almost like the horse was saying, I'm sorry, Angel. And then you got back on it and you carried on, and it was being like, I'm going to be good this time. You know where you're going to come off. And then after that, when we started going to the stables, and we would walk around and, talk to some of them, and they'd be like,
gosh, yeah, that one horse that I was like,
they would
Auntie, I made a connection with this horse.
They'd be like, oh, hi, you just have this. I was sort of standing there thinking, am I imagining this, or this horse is really liking this girl, But it really opened up my eyes about the connections of nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm very much, when it comes to my animals, if you're an animal person, you'd believe that anyway.
Yeah.
So seeing it from a horsey perspective with you was really nice to see. And that's why I pushed for social services to pay for you to have those lessons, because I saw you emerging. Once you went on there, your strength came forth. Instead of it being the aggressive side of you that was the strength, your strength came forth in controlling the beast. You became in control of the beast. And that could be a metaphor in the sense of you controlled your inner self, the thing that was driving you, and you also controlled the beast of the horse. You were in control of it. You decided.
I don't love the description of beast for a horse.
Eh?
I don't love the description of beast for a horse.
I suppose the word beast is meaning it's bigger.
But yeah. They are beasts in sense of size and capability to kill you.
Yes.
Yeah. A horse can kill you with just one foot.
Yes. And you were in control of that. You were in control of the horse. You told it when to move. You stopped it if it wasn't behaving. You allowed it to go. You allowed it to canter. You were in control of that. And that's what I saw. I saw you taking control of something that was bigger than you. Mm-hmm. And then I knew you had what it takes to take control of what was inside of you that was bigger than you.
Yeah.
And that's why I've always said to you, you've got a very stubborn streak, but that's determination turned the other way around.
Yeah.
And any day you put your mind to doing things, you will be successful. Everything that you've actually been successful in already, if you think about it, it's where you said, no, I really want this.
When you've done it. Business. Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the things that are trying to stop you from doing that is the things you need to work on, because you've already got the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. And what you've taught me in this journey with you is to carry on doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You encouraged me to say, let me carry on seeing if I can help these particular young people, because you taught me, you still do. Even now I'm learning from you, like I'm here, guys. Just to let you know, this was not my idea. This was this young lady's idea to do this podcast. I was running away and she said, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. So this is, again, you taking control and making it happen. And determination.
It's those little steps. I was reading a book called Atomic Habits, and it basically teaches you how to compound your habits to make one big habit. And horse riding was a little aspect of my life that I had control over. Mm-hmm. I controlled whether I went or not. Mm-hmm. And during the lesson, I'm actually controlling the horse. Mm-hmm. And as you said, it gave me that, if I can control this huge animal that's capable of killing me, then I can control anything.
Yes.
There's actually so many things. And I started to identify with myself what parts of my life I had jurisdiction over.
Yes.
And that empowered me a lot. That gave me so much empowerment and gave me so much confidence to stand on my own 2 feet. Because I think that's really scary for young people. I know you mentioned, sorry guys, we're just going to be basically debriefing the team meeting yesterday. Mm-hmm. But you mentioned that in year 9, you find that kids become the floaters become, I can't remember what word you use, but they become quite anxious, because that's when you start choosing your...
Yes.
That's when they choose their GCSE options. And I think I can relate to that as well. Mm-hmm. Year 9 was very, very stressful. Mm-hmm. And I started to panic because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Yep. So I was like, I don't even know where to go with this. I don't know what direction. So what did I do? I self-sabotage.
That's exactly
and just completely did it. I went in for one exam and I actually aced it. considering how much school I had missed. But I was so anxious of failing, I didn't go in for any of my exams. But if I had just gone in, I would have shocked myself.
You would have.
So,
but this is what happens. And, one of the things I want to really get across is that, I kind of knew before I did a piece of research with CAMS that there was two particular areas during secondary school that children will sabotage. One is in year 7 because of the transition from primary to secondary. It's a massive transition. In primary school, there's lots of support for kids, and there's lots of, if a child is playing up, they'll put them in a separate room. They've got the learning assistants. There's a bit more holding in primary schools. And then all of a sudden you jump into secondary school and there's no holding whatsoever. So what tends to happen is if they've not got any HCP, and even if they have, when they go into secondary school, this expectation of them being more independent, being able to find their classes themselves and expecting to sort of bring their stuff in every single day that they need to for whatever subjects they've got for that day. There's this expectation that they should be able to just do this. And for some kids, the transition is so overwhelming that they either lose their confidence or they find school very difficult and become highly anxious. And therefore they then become school refusers. The other side of it is that they become disruptive again. I don't want to go to school. They do something and then they get out of the class.
So it's just like deja vu happening.
And then that's one of the areas where we're working with kids at the moment, via the virtual school. The second phase is year 9 and 10. And I did this research before, well, I knew, but we did the research through CAMS. The educational psychologist wanted this confirmation, because they wanted to put something in place for school refusers. And they said to me, which year groups do you think is going to come out tops? I said, those two. And they did. The second one, year 9 to 10, is, again, the options, the fact that, oh, my God, I'm going to have to choose my exams. And that thought of being, able to choose the exams and fail was, in some cases, very difficult for those who may have either neurodiversity, or if they've got like dyslexia or anything like that has made them feel along the way that they may have something or they may be dumb. I worked with a young man, he was very intelligent, but he had dyslexia that hadn't been diagnosed. He was now in college and got through the education system, only God knows how. But he was considered lazy, didn't try hard enough. And when I got involved, it was just because at the time his mum had died, and they said, do you mind giving him some support? He didn't want any therapeutic intervention. So I came in disguised as a tutor kind of thing to help him with his business course at college. He was in foster care, so I came and I helped him with his college work. But when I was helping him, he had lots of fantastic ideas. But then when it came to us writing it out and putting it together, there was the comprehension that didn't flow. There was no full stops, no capital letters. And I remember thinking, I know this. So I went back to my colleagues in CAMS and said to one of the EPs, do me a favour, can you assess this young man for me? He's 17 years old, but he's got loads of ideas, but the comprehension's not there. She very willingly came. He wasn't living in Enfield. And she did an assessment. And it came out that he had severe dyslexia and used his audio to help him. Because dyslexia can be either you see the words, numbers jumping around on a page, or you can have audio dyslexia, dyspraxia even. There's these kind of things that a lot of kids have, and it doesn't get addressed. So what happens is they'll float. They'll manage to get through the first couple of years, and it might have even been not diagnosed, but identified in primary. But again, they would just see that this child's not, they won't say they've got a learning disability. They just say they're below their expected attainment levels. Then they get to secondary school and it's like they're not doing enough. They're not working hard enough. They're lazy. They're not doing their homework. They're not paying attention. They're not concentrating. They become this, oh, you're not. They get to year 9. They're already now believing that they're not. They're already believing now that they're lazy, they can't do it, they're dumb, because they've been told, you're not doing, you're not able, you're not concentrating. And they get to the 9 where they've got to choose their options and they don't feel confident Because now they're going to get identified. Now people are going to know they don't know.
It's like you're being outed.
There you go. Yeah. And what do you do when you're being outed as a teenager?
You shy away.
There you go.
And run away.
So what they do is they create disruption. They create disruption because the teachers are going to help them with that. Oh, you're not, come out the class. Oh, you're going detention. They confirm in, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. And then they believe that and say, you know what, sod school, I don't want to be a part of this. And why I say this is because it's a real big issue for me that kids are not getting screening for dyslexia and dyspraxia in primary school. That's where it should start. Because when I first got involved in trying to get into social care many years ago, even when I was in a bank, I wanted to do VA, which is a voluntary, I think it's assistant, working with social care. So you just kind of do visits. If a child's going to go and visit their parent in prison or in hospital or whatever, you will just escort them as part of your voluntary role, helping social services or the social workers. So I offered to get involved in that part of it. It was in Hackney. And I used to go to the meetings. I was like a blinkered horse. I had no idea of all these things that was going on with you guys. You know, I didn't even know this even happened. So I would go to these meetings. I'd be going like, oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, where you been? I'd be like, I've been in a bank. I don't know nothing about this. And they'd be saying, no, this is what happens. I'm like, really? And I remember once a lady from the Home Office came to give a talk about the numbers of children in care that were in prison. And obviously everybody probably was fully aware of it. I'm the naive person here, so I'm asking the questions that nobody's asking. So I was like, hold on a minute. So when you say so many people from the care community ends up in prison, what are you guys doing about that? I mean, have you identified something? The woman said from the Home Office that 80% of those that were in prison had dyslexia. And I remember I said to her, 80%? So I said, and I mean, this was many years ago, it's probably 30 odd years ago. I said to her, if the Home Office knows on the stats that 80% of the youths that are coming into prison have got dyslexia, I said, what are you doing about it? I mean, we're not talking 50-50 here. We're talking 80-20.
That's majority.
It's the majority. It's significant. What are you doing about it? Oh, well, once they're in there, once they're in there, you should be doing something before they get in there.
Right.
So if you know this and the stats are confirming this, why isn't this a test that is done in schools? Because that's where you're going to identify that cohort and do something about it before they leave school. Because these are the ones that are floating. They get to year 9 and they're thinking, you know what, I've had enough of this. I can't do it.
Yeah.
You're telling me I'm dumb. You're telling me and I can't get it because I can't focus. There's something they don't know it's dyslexia. They don't know if it's dyspraxia. They just know that they can't get it. So they start, feeling within themselves. They lose their own confidence in their ability to learn. And their educational journey becomes a task of self-discovery to the point where they don't get self-discovery unless they've got parents that are very understanding that can help them, put a tutor at home, got the money to afford these things. These kids are not getting it. So we are 30 years on and dyslexia is still not getting identified in schools. We still got people talking about the guy from the repair shop. He was dyslexic. He fell out of school too. We've got loads of people speaking the same stories, but yet they still haven't implemented that where there should be a standard test that they do in schools that will identify dyslexia traits so that they can put the right support in for these kids to be successful in their educational journey. And that's where I'm really, really prepared to fight with parents, with families, with children, to get them the support that they need.
Yeah.
I don't have the money, but if I can go into an educational meeting with a teacher and I'm aware that there's issues going on for the parent who's battling to get their child the support they need in school, I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Yeah, same. I had a similar conversation I don't know if we should say his name.
No names.
But he is an MP.
Okay.
And I, straight up asked him, if you know that majority of prisoners are care affected, care leavers, why is there nothing being done about it? And his answer was, it's not a national issue.
Whoa. Actually do mention his name. What do you mean it's not a national issue? Mention his name. He's an MP, Member of Parliament, meant to be representing the people. Go ahead. Say it. What did he say? It's not a what?
He said it's not a national issue in the sense that, he's basically saying there's so many other issues to address, like homelessness and cost of living crisis.
They're all contributing factors.
Right.
If you can't read and write because you've got dyslexia, and
then how are you meant to get a job to fight against the cost of living crisis?
And make sure that you don't become homeless because you can't get a job. And I mean, it's a contributory factor to what is happening within our communities, why we got all these young people in prisons, because they're trying to find another way. They can't find a job because they don't know. They don't have the confidence, some of them, to even bother to try. They may have tried, and because they don't have GCSEs, because they fell out of school. You see, it's like this is crazy. Well, I'll tell you who I want to speak to, the Education Secretary.
Yeah.
Whoever that is. I think I do know who it is, but they need to be accountable for this. This is their department. They're the ones that need to be making sure that all schools do this dyslexia and dyspraxia testing.
I don't understand why it's not just a standard thing to do.
It should be.
Especially if children are exhibiting those symptoms. Well, if they're exhibiting those type of behaviour, that
if they've got the evidence,
if there's a pattern, investigate.
If there's a pattern, if they can identify that the majority of the youths ending up in the youth justice system have got learning difficulties, there's enough information there to say that something needs to change early on in the education system to pick these up. To prevent
them from going to jail in the first...
Hello.
How can you say...
Hello.
When they get here, that's when we're going to help them? The idea is to do it before they get... What?
I know people that have gone through the education system and only got diagnosed with dyslexia when they went to uni. And then they were like, at last, now I know why.
That's insane.
Because they do tests in uni. In the universities, they do it. They do it. You can get tested for that. So you have to go through the whole system before you can get it. Whereas you should be able to get it coming through the system. So my thoughts, I have to be honest, I really feel that we're failing our young people. The education in this country needs to focus on why is it that there's such high levels of children, young people, young adults in prison who've got dyslexia. If we could have prevented those from going there, surely that would be in the public interest. One, we're paying less money to put people in boxes.
Right.
Two, we've got those people that could now be working. We might even reduce the number of people that are on the streets or in criminal exploitation. We need to be able to do better. And I think that for a country that's not considered to be third world, we should be doing a bit more to help our young people. And I know I can't do miracles, but if I can help one, I'm hoping I can impact many. That's our strapline.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about how you felt your journey was with me. Having a mentor, how did that help you, for example?
It gave me a constant. It gave me stability of knowing that every single week I'm going to meet up with you and we're going to go to La Bella Vita, go horse riding. And we're going to have a good conversation and a good time. And I think specifically, obviously, speaking about my thoughts and my feelings and getting that out helped me to regulate and kind of settle a lot internally. Because I think, obviously, that's why I was exhibiting all those external, the anger, the attitude, like disruptive behavior, always wanting to fight people. So, I mean, it's funny. I was talking to my sister about this the other day, and because I just obviously got my flat, And I've officially signed out of care now at 22 years old. And she said, you just seem more peaceful, and you just seem just more, even you said it actually when you came over. So I feel like that is a direct representation of how much being in the system subconsciously had such a toll on my mental health, of knowing that these people have some type of control over many different aspects of my life. And bringing that back to mentoring though, this transition of, I want to say for about 5 years, I've been transitioning out of care, and I will use the tools that, you taught me, of sitting there and thinking, right, what do I want? How do I get there? What are some things I need to change? How will I know once I've started to get what I want? What signs and what things are going to be changing in my life? And actually sitting there and identifying these really small, tedious things, it gave me a lot of, I guess, comfort and safety. There was a lot of assurance. It was really reassuring to have it on paper and be able to, visually see, that this is actually working. When I change my habits or I redirect energy, and I'm starting to get the results that I want. So yeah, I think mentoring definitely helped, obviously, with my behavior. Also really helped with my self-identity and how I looked at myself and how I perceived myself in general. And that's why I feel like everyone kind of needs a mentor or a counselor or a life coach, because I think people don't, it's not really part of people's routine to actually sit down with themselves and actually go through these things. They kind of keep it up in their head, and they don't realize that by keeping it in your head, you're giving yourself more stress, because you're just and then you've got all your other things that you got to remember to do throughout the day or throughout the week, and then before you know it, you're prioritizing the things you got to do right now. You're forgetting about your long-term goals and how you're going to take a step every day to get to those goals. So yeah, having you to kind of remind me of remember you said you was going to do this, and I'll be like, might have to not get that new poly dress this week. So might have to just put that into savings, so because my goal was to save. So yeah, just having someone there to kind of keep you on your toes and on the right track is really important. That's definitely what I feel like you served me. Obviously you served me in so many different ways beyond that, but yeah.
So if you had an opportunity to have changed anything, what would it have been?
Have you sooner. If you could have come in when I was 7, that'd be great.
Yeah
Because I feel like by then, let me not say that, because I was gonna say by the time that we had met, I feel like I was too far gone. But I also don't think that was true. I think I was in it deep. I was in a really, really, really bad place. I was depressed. I was angry. Just, school wasn't going right. Home life wasn't going right. The only thing that was going right was my friendship group. So, and even that, because I'm not in school, and I would turn up. I was hilarious. I wouldn't go to school, but I would go out after school to the park and meet everyone at the park on the way back, coming from home, going home. So, but all those things not going right, I felt like it was almost too late by the time you came.
Yeah.
So the most that you could do is just help me as a person and not necessarily help me in education, because I had 3 years left.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the time GCSEs rolled around, I feel like I didn't have that confidence in myself to take it on. At the time, the perspective I had is that social services only care about 3 things. They care about your attendance in the house, they care about your behavior towards staff in the house, and they care about you being in education. So the way I saw it is, if I don't go to school, I'm hurting you. But in the long run, it was just hurting me.
Yeah.
Which I'm now realizing at 22.
What you just said there was very powerful. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, as I said earlier, it's kind of like pulling the puppet strings. And I knew that if I was disruptive in a certain area of life, that I would be rewarded with some type of change, something happening, something being, reorganized. And nothing really reorganized after that. That was it. School was done. And they're like, okay, you didn't take your GCSEs? Okay. And I was just there like, what? But now I'm back on their necks, because I've realized that despite me taking accountability for my role in it all, it's still not acceptable that they let that happen. The fact that they didn't give me the support, they gave me the support and then took it away before it was done, and it had nothing to do with me. My safety definitely wasn't in danger or anything, and then it led to all of this now.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm back on their necks though. So,
well, the good thing is, you can look back and remember. Look back and remember.
Gotta do it into the mic. Wait till they hear it.
Need to practice a bit more with the singing. But we're going to wrap it up now. But you know what? You've got so much. And with your experience, we are going to help more, because you're on board. And we need you just like you need me.
Yeah.
We need each other. And we're going to continue this journey for as long as we can. She's no longer in care. She's a part of Precious.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to make changes to improve the lives of young people. So we'll end it there. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, guys. Tune in next time.
Bye.
Bye.